we will take a look at your alimentary tract or your alimentary canal. Please note that your alimentary canal, this is the continuation of your oral cavity. And please, it is a tract or it is a canal. It is a tubular portion of your digestive tract. And yes, this is the site where the food is churned, liquefied, and digested accordingly. And yes, what happens here is also there is also absorption of nutritional elements and water. And then also this is where the indigestible components are eliminated. Okay, the alimentary canal is about 9 meters in length. It is 9 meters in length and is subdivided into uh, morphologically recognizable regions. Namely, you have the esophagus, you have the stomach, you have the small intestine. The small intestine is somewhat subdivided into three. You have the duodenum, jejunum, and then the ileum. And then, of course, you have the large intestine as part of your alimentary tract. Still, your large intestine is divided also into four. Okay, if you want to add the appendix, making it five. Okay, your large intestine is divided into five portions. You have the cecum, the colons, your rectum, your anal canal, and then the appendix. Okay, okay, please note again that in your alimentary tract, that is the site where the food is churned, liquefied, and digested. And of course, the site of absorption of nutrients and water. Okay, the time that is spent by the ingested food in the various regions of the alimentary tract or alimentary canal depends on many factors, including the chemical composition of the food. But then, on a standard meal, if you ingested a standard meal spends in the esophagus for 5 seconds. Okay, and so in the esophagus, that is just a passageway. And then in this, the food will stay in the stomach for 3 to 5 hours, in the small intestines for 6 to 12 hours, and then in the large intestines for 30 to 40 hours accordingly. 30 to 40 hours in the large intestines before finally it is eliminated. Okay, that is for your alimentary. Have here a diagrammatic illustration of the a portion of the alimentary tract. Okay, showing you the layers of the walls of the alimentary tract. You have here the mucosa, the submucosa, and then the muscularis and the serosa. This is the focus of our lecture today. Alimentary canal is composed of several histological layers. Namely, you have the mucosa, the submucosa, your muscularis externa, and serosa, as what we said earlier. Okay, and these layers, they are innervated by the enteric nervous system and modulated by the parasympathetic and sympathetic nerves. Also, these layers, they are also served by the sensory fibers. Okay, the layers of the alimentary canal is similar throughout the length of the digestive tract, but then they have some regional differences or modifications and specializations. Of course, we will take a look at them as we move through. So you have here the mucosa. Your mucosa is the layer that is closest to the food present in the lumen. Your mucosa, please note that the lumen of the alimentary tract is lined by an epithelium. Okay, it is lined by an epithelium, and that epithelium is columnar, simple columnar epithelium. And then deep to the epithelium is a loose connective tissue, and you call that as lamina propria, which is a richly vascularized connective tissue that houses glands as well as lymphatic vessels and occasional lymphoid nodules. Okay, and so if you remember when we talk about your lymphoid tissues, you have what you call as your gut associated lymphoid tissues. Okay, your gut associated lymphoid tissues, they are some of them are present in the lamina propria. of the alimentary tract. Okay, please note that certain cells of the lamina propria, they are responsible for the synthesis and release of growth factors that control the cell cycle of the overlying epithelium of the epithelium. Okay, and yes, surrounding the connective tissue lamina propria is your muscularis mucosae. Your muscularis mucosae surrounds your lamina propria, and this muscularis mucosae is usually composed of an inner circular layer and an outer longitudinal layer of smooth muscle. Okay, your muscularis mucosae is made of a smooth muscle, while your lamina propria that is made of loose connective tissue. Again, your muscularis mucosae, it is made of an inner circular layer and an outer longitudinal layer of smooth muscle. Of course, the epithelium, okay, and so under the umbrella of mucosa, under your mucosa is made of an epithelium, an underlying lamina propria, sorry, and the muscularis mucosae. Okay, that is for your mucosa. And then you have the submucosa. Your submucosa surrounds the mucosa. Your mucosa, again, is surrounded by a submucosa. Your submucosa is a dense, irregular, fibroelastic connective tissue layer. Please remember, for your submucosa, it is made of dense, irregular, fibroelastic connective tissue layer. In this layer, your submucosa do not contain, or it does not house, glands except in the esophagus and duodenum. Okay, in the submucosa, it does not contain glands, but then in the submucosa of esophagus and the submucosa of the duodenum, they contain glands. Okay, the submucosa also contains blood and lymph vessels as well as a component of the enteric nervous system known as your Meissner's submucosal plexus. And yes, plexus, this plexus also houses postganglionic parasympathetic nerve cell bodies, which control the motility of the mucosa. Okay, and so yes, as we go through the innervation, we will take a look at this. Aside from controlling the motility of the mucosa, it also controls the secretory activities of its glands present. Okay, that is for your submucosa. Again, your Meissner submucosal plexus houses postganglionic parasympathetic nerve cell bodies, which controls the motility of the mucosa, and also it controls the secretory activities of the glands present in the mucosa. Muscularis externa. Please note that your muscularis externa covers your submucosa. And yes, your muscularis externa is responsible for the peristaltic activity. What is your peristaltic activity? It moves the contents of the lumen along the alimentary tract. Okay, since muscularis po ang tawag, then it is made of muscular. It is made of muscle. Okay, muscularis externa is composed of smooth muscle, except in the esophagus. Again, except in the esophagus. The muscularis externa is composed of smooth muscle, and the smooth muscle, they are organized in an inner circular layer and in an outer longitudinal layer. Okay, your interstitial cells of Cajal, you have interstitial cells of Cajal, which are smooth muscle-like cells. These interstitial cells of Cajal undergo rhythmic contraction, and they are considered to be the pacemakers for the contraction of the muscularis. Again, your interstitial cells of Cajal, they are considered to be the pacemakers for the contraction of the muscularis externa. Okay, there is your second component of a second component of the enteric nervous system, because you have in our back and Meissner's submucosal plexus, diba? Okay, your our back myenteric plexus here, this one is situated between the two muscle layers. It is located between the inner circular and outer longitudinal muscle layers. What does it do? Your our back myenteric plexus regulates the activity of the muscularis externa. It regulates the activity of the muscularis externa. It regulates the peristaltic activity. Okay, and yes, accordingly, present also in your your our back myenteric plexus also houses postganglionic parasympathetic nerve cell bodies. Okay, and so yes, the three-dimensional reconstruction of the muscularis mucosae, your muscularis mucosae is located in the mucosa. Okay, and then the three-dimensional reconstruction of the mucosae and the muscularis externa shows that the muscularis, both the muscularis, the inner circular and the outer longitudinal layer are arranged helically. The pitch of the helices differ. However, the inner circular layer displays a tight helix accordingly. Okay, and so whereas the outer longitudinal layer presents a helix in both muscular layers. Again, the inner circular, tighter helix, and then in your outer longitudinal, loose helix accordingly. Please note that the muscularis externa is enveloped or covered by a thin connective tissue layer that may or may not be surrounded by simple squamous epithelium of the visceral peritoneum. Visceral peritoneum po yun Okay, and so here, serosa or adventitia. If the region of the alimentary canal is intraperitoneal, located inside the peritoneum, it is invested by a peritoneum. Okay, the covering is known as a serosa. Again, if the region of the alimentary canal is located inside the peritoneum or it is invested by peritoneum, you call the covering as serosa. If the organ is retroperitoneal, it adheres to the body wall by its dense irregular connective tissue component, then you call it as an adventitia. Okay? Serosa if it is intraperitoneal. Adventitia if it is retroperitoneal. Let's take a look at the innervation of the alimentary tract, which is composed of two parts. The intrinsic element, you have the enteric nervous system, and the extrinsic constituent, you have the parasympathetic and sympathetic components. Okay? The major controlling factor accordingly resides in the enteric nervous system, which is the controlling factor which resides in the enteric nervous system is self-sufficient and its functions are normally modified by the sympathetic and parasympathetic components. Okay, yes, supported lang po because if the sympathetic and parasympathetic connections to the entire gut or to the entire alimentary tract is severed or destroyed, the alimentary canal can still perform all of its functions without any major problem because you have your intrinsic innervation, you call it as your enteric nervous system. Okay, please note that your enteric nervous system, this is the nervous system of your digestive tract. Okay, because accordingly, for some references, they say that the digestive tract has its own self-contained nervous system, and you call that as the enteric nervous system. Okay, the enteric nervous system extends the entire length of the alimentary canal from the esophagus to the anus. Okay, and so yes, this enteric nervous system, this is dedicated to controlling the secretory and motile functions of the alimentary canal. Okay, just nice to know that there are 100 million or more than neurons of the enteric nervous system, which are distributed in a large number of small clusters of nerve cell bodies. Okay, and so they are distributed in your Auerbach myenteric plexus and in your Meissner's submucosal plexus. Okay, and so these two terms, these are not new to you anymore. Okay, okay, and so just a nice to know again that the number of neurons associated with the enteric nervous system approximates or accordingly exceeds the total number of neurons contained within the spinal cord. This one suggests that the enteric nervous system is exceptionally important entity. That is why it is considered to be the third component of the autonomic nervous system. Okay, and so in your autonomic kasi you have the sympathetic, parasympathetic, and then third component, you have your enteric nervous system. Okay, and so but then moving on, the peristaltic motility of the digestive tract is under the direction of your myenteric plexus. Okay, the direction of your Auerbach myenteric plexus. Again, the peristaltic motility of the digestive tract is under the direction of the Auerbach myenteric plexus. So, on the other hand, the secretory function and mucosal movement, as well as the regulation of localized blood flow, these are governed naman by your submucosal plexus. Okay, for your Auerbach, it is for the peristaltic activity, while for your Meissner submucosal plexus, okay, it governs the secretory function and mucosal movement, as well as the regulation of localized blood flow. Okay, your Auerbach myenteric plexus is concerned Yeah, it is concerned not only with local conditions but also with conditions along much of the digestive tract. While your submucosal plexus is attentive primarily to local conditions in the vicinity of the particular cluster of nerve cells in question accordingly. Okay, that is for your enteric nervous and yes, sabi natin earlier, you have what we call this parasympathetic and sympathetic innervations. Again, the digestive tract receives a parasympathetic nerve supply from the vagus nerve or your cranial nerve 9, except for the descending colon and the rectum, which of course that is this descending colon and the rectum, they are innervated by the sacral spinal nerves. Okay, most of the fibers of vagus nerve are sensory and deliver information from receptors in the mucosa and muscularis of the alimentary canal to the CNS. Okay, and so with this, for your parasympathetic innervation, it stimulates peristalsis, inhibits sphincter muscles, and triggers secretory activity. While for your sympathetic innervation, this one is derived from the splanchnic nerves. And yes, your sympathetic fibers are vasomotor and they control blood flow to the alimentary canal. Aside from that, your sympathetic innervation inhibits peristalsis and activates sphincter muscles. Okay, and so please note your parasympathetic and sympathetic innervation, they support your enteric nervous system. Again, they support the enteric nervous system. Kasi sabi nga natin kanina, if the parasympathetic and sympathetic parasympathetic and sympathetic innervation is severed or destroyed, functional pa rin po ang digestive tract. Okay? Functional pa rin. Hindi siya masisira. Okay? The function will still push through. Here, your what you call this, the layers of your alimentary tract. Okay, and so this one is from the from the small intestine. Okay, and so this portion is from the small intestine. Of course, you have your mucosa. The epithelium is simple columnar epithelium, diba? It is simple columnar epithelium. And then you have a lamina propria, and then a thin muscularis mucosae, which is inner circular and outer longitudinal in nature. Okay, the arrangement of the nerve, I mean of the muscle fibers are inner. The inner one is in a circular, and then the outer is this arranged longitudinal. Okay, and then you have the submucosa. The submucosa is made of uh connective tissue, and then your muscularis externa. Your muscularis externa is made of smooth muscle fibers. Okay, and then you have the serosa. Okay. Let's take a look at your esophagus. Your esophagus is a muscular tube that is approximately 25 centimeters in length. And yes, what does it do? It conveys the bolus, sorry, it conveys the bolus. Okay, so this is your partially digested food and saliva, a mixture of partially digested food and saliva. It conveys the bolus from the oral pharynx to the stomach. Okay, accordingly, along its entire length of the esophagus, the mucosa presents numerous longitudinal folds with intervening grooves that cause the lumen to appear to be obstructed. However, when the esophagus is distended, accordingly, the folds disappear and the lumen becomes patent accordingly. Okay, and so yes, please note that the esophagus, it does not have an anatomical sphincter. Okay, and so it does not have an anatomical sphincter. Unlike sa may duodenum, unlike the stomach and then the duodenum, there is a sphincter. Okay, the esophagus does not have an anatomical sphincter, but then it has, it does have two physiological sphincters. Namely, you have the pharyngoesophageal sphincter, which is the upper esophageal sphincter, and the internal and external gastroesophageal sphincters. Okay, and so this one will prevent reflux into the pharynx from the esophagus and into the esophagus from the stomach, respectively. Of course, your pharyngeo sorry, your what do you call this, your upper or your pharyngoesophageal sphincter, it prevents reflux into the pharynx from the esophagus, while the two uh lower esophageal sphincters, you have your internal and external gastroesophageal sphincter, will prevent reflux of food from the stomach to the esophagus. And yes, your internal gastroesophageal sphincter is composed of smooth muscle fibers, which is located at the region where the esophagus pierces the diaphragm and joins the stomach. Okay? Esophagus is lined by a 0.5 millimeters thick stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium. Yes, it's non-keratinized stratified squamous. Okay, and yes, it presents a well-developed Reti apparatus as interdigitates with the underlying connective tissue. Okay. The epithelium is regenerated at a much slower rate than that of the remainder of the gastrointestinal tract. Okay, and so you have your newly formed cell in the basal layer of the epithelium reaches the free surface in about 3 weeks after formation. Okay, and so interspersed with the keratinocytes of the epithelium are antigen presenting cells known as your Langerhans cells. Okay, and what does it do? What do they do? They phagocytose and degrade antigens into small polypeptides, and then they present it to your other cells. Okay, and so the lamina propria of your of your esophagus is unremarkable, and it houses esophageal cardiac glands, which are located in two regions of the esophagus. One cluster is located near the pharynx. One cluster of esophageal cardiac glands is located near the pharynx, and the other uh, cluster is located near the juncture with the stomach. Okay, that is for your uh, lining epithelium and the lung. Your esophageal cardiac glands produce a mucus secretion that coats the lining of the esophagus. that is for protection also, okay? And so it will lubricate the lining epithelium of the esophagus to protect the epithelium as the bolus is passed. It will protect it from abrasion, from mechanical stress, ganyan. Okay? Because the glands or your esophageal cardiac glands resemble the glands from the cardiac region of the stomach, some references suggested that they are ectopic patches of your gastric tissue. Okay? Accordingly. And yes, for your mucosa, there is a muscularis mucosae, which consists of a single layer of smooth muscle, longitudinally arranged. Longitudinally arranged, single layer of smooth muscle. Of the submucosa. Your submucosa, it is made of dense fibroelastic connective tissue which houses your esophageal glands proper. Esophageal glands proper. The esophagus and the duodenum are the only regions of the alimentary canal with glands in the submucosa. Again, the esophagus and the duodenum, they are the only regions of the alimentary canal with the glands in the mucosa accordingly. Okay? Please note that the secretory units of your glands here, they are composed of two types of cells. You have your mucus and serous cells. Okay, and so mucus and serous cells. Of course, for your serous cells, it secretes. So, I mean, for your serous cells, the granules contain uh, the the proenzyme pepsinogen and an antibacterial agent known as your lysozyme. And the ducts of these glands deliver their secretions directly into the lumen of the esophagus, while your mucous cells, they have basally located flattened nuclei and an apical accumulation of mucinogen filled secretory granules. Okay. As for mucus cells, it secretes mucinogen. And then as for your serous cells, it secretes pepsinogen and lysozyme. Okay, the muscularis externa of the esophagus is arranged in the customary two layers. You have your inner circular and outer longitudinal layer. However, these muscle layers are unusual in that they are composed of both skeletal and smooth muscle fibers. Unusual because, yes, okay, and so they contain skeletal and smooth muscle fibers. The muscularis externa of the upper third of the esophagus has vagus nerve, okay, and the middle third has both skeletal and smooth muscle. Okay, and the lowest third has only smooth muscle fibers. Okay, and are served by nerve fibers of the enteric nervous system. Okay, of course, you have the Auerbach plexus and your Meissner submucosal plexus. Okay, the esophagus is covered by an adventitia until it pierces the diaphragm, after which, okay, it is covered by a serosa. Your stomach, this one is the most dilated region of the alimentary canal. And yes, it is a sac-like structure that in the resting state, in an average adult, it has a volume of only 50 ml in the resting state. However, it can accommodate approximately 1,500 ml of food. Okay? It can expand. 'Di ba? Yes, it can expand. Okay, and so yes, your stomach can accommodate 1,500 of 500 ml of food and gastric juices at its maximal distension. Okay, and so please note that as the stomach expands, its intraluminal pressure remains relatively constant. expands, its intraluminal pressure remains relatively constant due to the presence of two. You have the ghrelin hormone and then vagovagal reflex. Your ghrelin hormone is released by the diffused neuroendocrine system cells known as ghrelin cells. This ghrelin hormone induces the sensation of hunger. But then, in the context of this, keeping the constant pressure as the stomach expands, your ghrelin hormone modulates receptive relaxation of the smooth muscle fibers of the muscularis externa to keep the pressure constant, the intraluminal pressure constant. While your vagovagal reflex, it is provided, of course, by the vagus nerve. This vagovagal reflex provides feedback information to the muscularis externa of the stomach to keep its relaxed condition accordingly. Okay? And aside from keeping the intraluminal pressure, you have other functions of your vagovagal reflex. You have stimulates HCl production, histamine release, and inhibition of delta cells. Juice passes from the esophagus through the gastroesophageal junction into the stomach. The stomach, that is the site of production of acid chyme. Okay, further digestion of food. Okay, and yes, acidic chyme is released to the duodenum in small amounts. Anatomically, the stomach has a concave, lesser curvature and a convex, greater curvature. Gross observations disclose that the stomach has four regions, namely, you have the cardia, fundus, body, and pylorus. The cardia is a narrow region at the gastroesophageal junction, and it is 2 to 3 centimeters in width. The fundus is a dome-shaped region to the left of the esophagus and is frequently filled with gas. And the body, this is otherwise known as the corpus, is the largest portion responsible for the formation of acid chyme. And then your pylorus or your pyloric antrum is a funnel-shaped constricted portion equipped with a thick pyloric sphincter which controls the intermittent release of chyme into the duodenum. Intermittent release, paunti-unti po yun. Okay? Histologically, the fundus in the body are identical. And yes, please note that all of the gastric regions display rugae. Rugae. These are longitudinal folds of the mucosa. Okay, and submucosa. Longitudinal folds of the mucosa and submucosa. These rugae disappear in the distended stomach. Okay, and so meaning, yes, it is appreciated in an empty stomach. Your rugae, it is spelled as R-U-G-A-E, rugae. Your rugae permits expansion of the stomach as it fills with food and gastric juices. Additionally, in the stomach, the epithelial lining invaginates into the mucosa, forming gastric pits, which are shallowest in the cardiac region and deepest in the pyloric region. The gastric pits increase the surface area for the gastric lining. Okay, please note that you have 5 to 7 gastric glands of the lamina propria empty into the bottom of the gastric pits. Okay, let's take a look at your fundic mucosa. You have in your mucosa, of course, you have your epithelial lining, your underlying connective tissue, the lamina propria, and then your muscularis mucosae. The lumen of the fundic stomach is lined by a simple columnar epithelium composed of surface lining cells. These surface lining cells manufacture a thick mucus layer known as the visible mucus. This visible mucus is a gel-like substance that adheres to the lining of the stomach and protects it from autodigestion. Okay, you also have your bicarbonate ions trapped in this thick mucus layer that are able to maintain a relatively neutral pH at its interface with the cell membranes of the surface lining cells despite the very low acidity of the luminal contents. Okay, surface lining cells continue into the gastric pits, forming their epithelial lining. You also have regenerative cells, which are also present in the base of your gastric pits. And you have a small number of taste cells that recognize sweet, bitter, and umami taste sensations are also present in the fundic epithelium. Okay, of course, the fundic mucosa or the lining is made of is lined or the fundic mucosa is lined by simple columnar epithelium composed of surface lining cells. Propria is a loose, highly vascularized connective tissue. It has a rich population of plasma cells, lymphocytes, mast cells, fibroblasts, and occasional smooth muscle cells. Much accordingly of the lamina propria is occupied by approximately 15 million closely packed gastric glands. You call them as your fundic glands. Okay, and so these fundic glands are in the Fundic region. And yes, additional components of the gut or your gut-associated lymphoid tissues are also present in the lamina propria of the Fundic mucosa. Each fundic gland extends from the muscularis mucosae to the base of the gastric pit and is subdivided into three regions. You have the isthmus, the neck, and the base, of which the base is the longest. Okay, the base is the longest. Your simple columnar epithelium constituting the fundic gland is composed of six cell types. You have your surface lining cells, you have your parietal or your auxentic cells, you have your regenerative cells or your stem cells, and then you have your mucous neck cells, your chief cells, and your diffuse neuroendocrine system cells accordingly. Okay, surface lining cells with and a few diffuse neuroendocrine system cells are located in the isthmus region. At the neck, you have mucous neck cells and the rest, and then at the base, you have your chief cells and the rest cells listed. Okay. Take a look at the cells of your fundic mucosa. You have your mucous neck cells, which produce a soluble mucus that is mixed with and lubricates the chyme and reduces friction. Your regenerative cells, they proliferate to replace specialized cells in the lining fundic glands. And then you have your parietal or auxentic cells. They manufacture hydrochloric acid and gastric intrinsic factor, which is released in the lumen of the stomach. And then you have your chief cells or zymogenic cells. They manufacture the enzymes pepsinogen, renin, and gastric lipase accordingly. And then your diffuse neuroendocrine system cells, they manufacture endocrine, paracrine, and neurocrine hormones. And they release their secretions to the lamina propria. Okay, and then the muscularis mucosae of your stomach, it is three layers of smooth muscle cells. Okay, you have an inner circular and outer longitudinal layers which are well defined, and then the outermost circular is not always evident. The submucosa is the submucosa, it is made of dense irregular collagenous connective tissue. It has a rich vascular supply and lymphatic network, and then it is innervated by Meissner's submucosal plexus. Okay, this one accordingly is an illustration showing you your gastric pits and then your surface epithelium, your neck cells, and the rest, your fundic glands, your gastric glands. And then of course you have the submucosa, your muscularis mucosae present. Okay, and then another one, you have here your epithelium and then the glands. Okay, and then your submucosa. Okay, this one is another illustration your of your of your mucosa of the stomach. Okay, you have the surface epithelium, which is which is what you call this simple columnar epithelium, and then you have your gastric glands. Of course, you have your gastric pits with you. Okay, another one po. You have your surface epithelium, and then you have the gastric pits. Okay, you have your glands, pyloric glands, you have your muscularis mucosae, and your submucosa. Okay, this one again is an illustration of your sorry, of your of your mucosa of the stomach. Okay, you have the glands, you have your parietal cells, you have the lamina propria, lymphatic nodule, and then your muscularis mucosae. Okay, muscularis mucosae, you have your longitudinal and circular muscle layers. And then you have the submucosa. Okay, the muscularis externa of your stomach is composed of three layers of smooth muscle. You have the innermost oblique layer, which is not well defined, and then a middle circular layer, which is evident in the entire stomach. But then, and yes, it is pronounced in the pyloric region, and then an outer longitudinal layer, which is most evident in the cardiac region accordingly. Your small intestine. Please note that digestion begins in the oral cavity and continues in the stomach and in the small intestines, which at your small intestine is 7 meters in length and is the longest region of the alimentary tract. The small intestine is subdivided into three regions. You have your duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. Although these regions are similar histologically, there are minor differences that permit their identification accordingly. And yes, what does your small intestine do? Your small intestines digest food material and absorbs end products of the digestive process. To perform its digestive function, the first region of the small intestines, which is the duodenum, receives enzymes and an alkaline buffer from the pancreas and bile from the liver. Additionally, epithelial cells and glands of the mucosa contribute buffers and enzymes to facilitate the digestion process. We said earlier that the three regions of the small intestines are similar histologically. Uh, we will take a look at the common features later on, okay? And so, but then we will take a look first at the variations or modifications of the general plan, okay? The luminal surface of the small intestine is modified to increase its surface area, and you have these three types of modifications that are noted by your histologist. First, you have your uh, villi, microvilli, and plicae circularis. Okay, modifications, your surface area of the lumen is enlarged by the formation of plicae circularis, villi, microvilli, and the crypts of Lieberkühn. Plicae circularis, or otherwise known as valves of Kirkring, they are transverse folds of the submucosa and mucosa that form a semi-circular to helical elevations. Okay, and so some plicae circularis are as large as 8 millimeters in height and 5 centimeters in length. Unlike the rugae of the stomach, these plicae circularis are permanent fixtures of the duodenum and jejunum and end in the proximal half of the ileum. The distal half of the ileum does not have a plicae circularis. Okay? And so, yes, your plicae circularis not only increase the surface area by a factor of 2 to 3, but they also decrease the velocity of the movement of chyme along the alimentary canal. Okay? And so, with that, it will provide a greater contact time of food and the digestive juices. Okay, and then you have the villi. Your villi, these are epithelially covered finger-like or oak-like leaf protrusions of the lamina propria. Okay, the core of the villi, or yes, the core of the villi contains capillary loops, or the lamina propria of the villus contains capillary loops, a blindly ending lymphatic channel known as your lacteal, and a few smooth muscle fibers that are embedded in a loose connective tissue which is rich in lymphoid cells. Please note that your villi, these are permanent structures ranging in number from 10 to 40 per millimeter squared. Okay, the number of your villi are greater in the duodenum than in the jejunum or in the ileum. And of course, their height decreases from 1.5 millimeters in the duodenum to about 0.5 millimeters in the ileum. Please note, these villi, they provide a velvety appearance to the lining of the living organ. Okay, the villi increases the surface area of the small intestines by a factor of 10. Okay, and so providing a more efficient digestion. And then you have the microvilli. Okay, and so sorry, this one is an illustration of your villi. This is a villi. Okay, this whole thing here is a villi. Okay, this is a villi. Okay, the core is a lamina propria. Okay, this is a villi. This is a villi. Okay, of course, it is covered by a surface epithelium. This is a villi ha, villi. Magkaiba po si villi at microvilli because your villi, it is made of lamina propria and a covering epithelium. And then you have your microvilli. Your microvilli is a modification of the apical plasma membrane of the epithelial cells covering the intestinal villi. Okay, and so yes, this one will increase the surface area of the small intestine by a factor of 20. Okay, and so yes, with that being said, overall, the three types of intestinal surface modifications increase the total surface area available for absorption of nutrients by a factor of 400 to 600 overall. Okay, and so aside from that, invaginations of the epithelium in the lamina propria between the villi form intestinal glands, crypts of Leberkuhn, which also augment the surface area of the small intestines. Okay. Yes, let's move on to your intestinal mucosa. Your intestinal mucosa is covered by simple columnar epithelium. Okay, as the lining epithelium, still in the intestinal mucosa, you have lamina propria and muscularis mucosae. The simple columnar epithelium covers the villi and surface of your intervillar space. Okay, surface absorptive cells are present, the epithelium, and goblet cells are also present, as well as diffuse neuroendocrine system cells. Okay, this one is an illustration of your intestines. Okay, and so again, you have the villi. Your villi, okay, the villi, of course, it has a lamina propria. It has a core connective tissue, diba? And then covered by, lined by simple columnar epithelium. Okay, you have goblet cells also here. And then you have a muscularis mucosae, a thin layer of muscle tissue, and then your submucosa. Your mucosa, mucosal epithelial cells, your surface absorptive cells here. Your surface absorptive cells, these are tall columnar cells that function in terminal digestion and absorption of water and nutrients. They are 25 micrometers in length. The nuclei is basally located and the apex present a striated border. Okay, and so yes, please note that the surface absorptive cells, they resterify fatty acids into triglycerides and form chylomicrons accordingly. Okay, this one is a histologic picture of the duodenum. Okay, and so you have the simple columnar, you have the villi. Again, villi po is a tissue. Okay, villi is a tissue, ha? While your microvilli, these are surface uh, protrusions or surface extensions of a cell membrane. Okay, and so this one is a histologic illustration of the jejunum. Okay. Showing you the plicae circularis, no? Okay, and then you have your goblet cells. Your goblet cells, they manufacture mucinogen. Please note that your goblet cells, they are unicellular glands. They manufacture mucinogen. This mucinogen, when it comes in contact with water, it will form mucus. Okay, the duodenum has the smallest number of goblet cells and increases toward the ileum, meaning the ileum, it has the greatest number of goblet cells. Okay, you have your microfold cells. They phagocytose and transport antigens from the lumen to the lamina propria. And then you have your lamina propria, which is made of loose connective tissue. It forms the core of your microvilli. Sorry, it forms the core of villi. Okay, it forms the core of villi. It extends to the muscularis mucosae and is compressed into thin vascularized connective tissue sheet by numerous tubular glands known as crypts of Lieberkühn. Okay, your crypts of Lieberkühn, these are simple tubular glands that increases the surface area of the intestinal lining. Okay, it is composed of diffuse neuroendocrine cells, system cells, surface absorptive like columnar cells, goblet cells, regenerative cells, M cells, intermediate cells, and Paneth cells accordingly. Again, your regenerative cells, they repopulate the epithelium of the crypt and mucosal surface as well as the villi. While your surface absorptive cells, absorptive like columnar cells and goblet cells, they occupy the half of the gland. Okay. Your intermediate cells, they are the largest cell population and resemble your regenerative cells, and they replace the func cells of the epithelial lining of the intestinal lumen. Okay, your Paneth cells, they produce the antibacterial agent lysozyme, defensins, and tumor necrotic factor. They are eosinophilic. They have a large eosinophilic apical secretory granules, and they occupy the base of the crypt. Okay, you have here your Paneth cells. They occupy the base of the crypt. Okay, this is the crypt. Okay, and then you have your mitotic cells, your goblet cells, and then your neuroendocrine cells, and then your muscularis mucosae. Your muscularis mucosae is composed of inner circular layer and an outer longitudinal layer of smooth muscle cells. Okay, muscle fibers from the inner circular layer enter the villus and extend through its core. Okay, during digestion, the muscle fibers rhythmically contract, shortening the villi. And the submucosa, it is dense, irregular, fibroelastic connective tissue with a rich lymphatic, neural, and vascular supply accordingly. It possesses Meissner's corpuscle, Meissner's submucosal plexus. Now, the submucosa of the duodenum has Brunner's glands. These Brunner's glands are branched tubulo-alveolar glands that has a secretory portions resembling a mucus acini. Okay, your duct your duct penetrate the muscularis mucosae to the base of the crypt of Lieberkühn to deliver its secretion. The duct of your Brunner's glands. Okay, it produces a mucus bicarbonate-rich fluid as well as urogastrone. Your urogastrone here inhibits the production of hydrochloric acid and amplifies the rate of mitotic activity of the regenerative and intermediate cells. The muscularis externa of your Small intestine is made of inner circular and an outer longitudinal smooth muscle layer. Our Bachman and Derek plexus, they are located between the two layers. And yes, this muscularis externa is responsible for the peristaltic activity of the small intestines. Uh, as for your outermost covering, the serosa, except for the second and third parts of the duodenum, which has an adventitia, the entire small intestine is invested by a serosa. Again, the second and third parts of the duodenum is invested or covered by an adventitia, and then the entire small intestine is invested by a serosa. Okay, let's take a look at the regional differences of your small intestines. Please note that the duodenum, that is the shortest segment of the small intestines, and it is only about 25 centimeters in length. It receives bile from the liver and digestive juices from the pancreas via the common bile duct and pancreatic duct, respectively. These ducts accordingly open into the lumen of the duodenum at the duodenal papilla or papilla of Vater. The duodenum differs from the jejunum and ileum in that its villi are broader, taller, and more numerous per unit area. The villi, the villi are broader, they are taller and more numerous per unit area, and it has a fewer goblet cells per unit area than the segments, and there are Brunner glands in its submucosa. Of the jejunum are narrower, shorter, and sparser than those of the duodenum, and the number of goblet cells per unit area is greater in the jejunum than in the duodenum. The ileum, the villi of the ileum are the sparsest and shortest and narrowest of the three regions of the small intestine. The lamina propria of the ileum houses permanent clusters of lymphoid nodules known as Peyer's patches. These Peyer's patches are located in the wall of the ileum that is opposite the attachment of the mesentery. Okay? Accordingly, in the region of Peyer's patches, the villi are reduced into height and may even be absent. Large intestine is subdivided into the cecum, colon, rectum, and anus. The colon accounts for almost the entire length of the large intestine. Your appendix is small blind outpouching of the cecum, and yes, your large intestine is approximately 1.5 meters long, and it absorbs most of water and ions from the chyme, and it compacts the chyme into feces for elimination. Colon of the large intestines does not have a villi, but it is rich in crypts of Lieberkühn that are similar in composition to those of the small intestines. Number of goblet cells of its simple columnar epithelium increases from the cecum, to the sigmoid colon, and you have your surface absorptive cells are the most numerous cell type. Your diffuse neuroendocrine system cells and L cells present in the colon secretes your peptide YY, which is an appetite reducing hormone. Okay, in the colon, you have a fibroblast, which is subdivided into two components, which this fibroblast is subdivided into two components. You have the one located throughout the lamina propria, which are just like fibroblasts anywhere else of the body, while the ones located at the basis of the crypts of Lieberkühn, they migrate and arrive near the crypt where they differentiate into macrophage-like cells. Okay, the lamina propria of the colon is also richly endowed with lymphoid cells and lymphoid nodules. So, okay, you have a low lymph drainage in the colon, and this low lymph drainage in the colon accounts for limited incidence of metastasis of colon cancers, limited spreading of colon cancer. Okay, the muscularis mucosae and the submucosa of the colon resemble those that of the small intestine. Okay, and so muscularis mucosae resemble those that of the small intestine, also the submucosa. Okay, so this one is an illustration, a histological image of your colon. Yeah. Okay, you have your absorptive columnar cells, you have your goblet cells, your lamina propria, and then your glands. Okay. Mm. Still, you have here from your what they call this large intestine. Okay, you have your large intestine still here. You have your Taenia coli, mesenteric plexus, and then you have the epithelium, and then of course you have your lumen. Vascularis externa, the outer longitudinal layer is not of continuous thickness along the surface. Most accordingly of the muscles is gathered into three narrow ribbons of muscle fascicles. In this muscle fascicles, you call it as Taenia coli. Constant tonus maintained by the coli placards the large intestines into succulations. You call it as a Hostra coli. So of the large intestine, this displays appendices epiplocae. These appendices epiplocae, these are fat-filled pouches located in the serosa of the large intestines. Okay. Resembles the colon. Okay, and yes, but then the crypts of Libercun are deeper and fewer per unit area. As for your anal canal is a constricted continuation of the rectum and is about 3 to 4 centimeters in length. The crypts of Libercun are short in the anal canal and few and are no longer present in the distal half of the anal canal. Histologic image of your rectum. Okay, showing you your surface epithelium, the lamina propria, which is made of loose connective tissue, and then a longitudinal fold. You have your what you call this, your muscle, okay, your muscularis externa, and then you have the submucosa, which is made of connective tissue pa rin. Okay, your anal canal, the mucosa also displays longitudinal folds, and you call this as your anal columns or your rectal columns of Morgagni. These anal columns meet one another to form a pouch-like outpocketing. And yes, this pouch-like outpocketing, you call it as your anal valves. Your anal valves with intervening anal sinuses. These anal valves assist the anus in supporting the column of feces. Of your anal mucosa is simple cuboidal from the rectum to the pectinate line. Please note, it is simple cuboidal from the rectum to the pectinate line. Okay, or the spectinate line is at the level of the anal valves. Okay, and then stratified squamous non-keratinized from the pectinate line to the external anal orifice, and stratified squamous keratinized at the anus. Okay, the lamina propria is a fibroelastic connective tissue that houses anal glands at the rectoanal junction and the circumanal glands at the distal end of the anal canal. Okay, and so additionally, there are hair follicles and sebaceous glands that are present at the anus. So the muscularis mucosae, okay, the muscularis mucosae of your anal mucosa is composed of inner circular layer and an outer longitudinal layer of smooth muscle. But then these layers do not extend beyond the pectinate line accordingly. Okay, for your muscularis mucosae, still inner circular and outer longitudinal smooth muscle layer. Okay, and then the submucosa of the anal canal is composed of fibroelastic connective tissue, and it houses two venous plexuses. You call them as your internal hemorrhoidal plexus that is situated above the pectinate line, and an external hemorrhoidal plexus that is located at the junction of the anal canal with its external orifice, the anus. Okay, and then the muscularis externa consists of an inner circular and an outer longitudinal smooth muscle layer. The inner circular layer becomes thickened as it encircles the region of the pectinate line to form the internal anal sphincter. And then you have the smooth muscle cells of the outer longitudinal layer continue as a fibroelastic sheet surrounding the internal anal sphincter. Okay, skeletal muscles of the floor of the pelvis form an external anal sphincter that surrounds the fibroelastic sheath and the internal anal sphincter. The external anal sphincter is under voluntary control and exhibits a constant tonus since again it is made of skeletal muscles from the floor of the pelvis. Kaya po siya voluntarily controlled. Okay? And yes, again, your external anal sphincter is voluntarily controlled. Okay, and then you have your appendix. Your appendix accordingly resembles the colon. Okay, it is a 5 to 6 centimeter long diverticulum of the cecum. Okay, it has an stellate lumen that usually is occupied by debris. Okay, this one is a histologic illustration of your what you call this, of your appendix. The mucosa of the appendix is made of a simple columnar epithelium consisting of surface absorptive cells, goblet cells, and M cells, where lymphoid nodules adjoin the epithelium accordingly. The lamina propria is loose connective tissue with numerous lymphoid nodules and shallow crypts of Lieberkühn. Surface absorptive cells are present in the crypts, and as well as goblet cells, regenerative cells, numerous diffuse neuroendocrine cells, and infrequent Paneth cells are present in the crypts of liver. Muscularis mucosae, the submucosa, and the muscularis externa of the appendix do not deviate from the general plan of the alimentary canal. Although lymphoid nodules and occasional fatty infiltrations are present in the appendix. Okay, and yes, your appendix is covered by a serosa. It is covered by a serosa. That's it for your alimentary canal from your esophagus down to your anus or your anal canal. Okay, thank you for making this far. This has been Gael reminding you to live fully, love deeply, laugh often, keep learning, and never forget to enjoy the ride. Again, this is Gael, forever grateful. See you around.